In a tense federal courtroom, all eyes were on Judge Maxwell Carter, a man notorious for his hostility toward conservatives. Presiding over a high-stakes case against the Faith and Family Foundation, an organization accused of financial fraud, Carter carried his reputation like a shield, making it clear from the outset that he had little patience for right-wing figures. The atmosphere grew even more charged when White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt entered the room to testify. The moment he saw her, Carter's expression darkened. He barely concealed his contempt, sarcastically questioning why she was there. "I failed to see what a political mouthpiece for the former administration has to offer this court," he sneered, waving a dismissive hand. But Leavitt was unfazed. She stood her ground, her voice steady as she presented financial documents proving the charity's transparency. Carter, however, wasn't interested in evidence that didn't align with his narrative. His gavel came down hard. "Irrelevant," he declared, cutting her off. Leavitt remained calm. "Your Honor, I urge you to review." Carter's patience snapped. "Enough. One more word, and I'll hold you in contempt." A murmur rippled through the courtroom, but instead of backing down, Leavitt leaned forward, her tone unwavering. "Then perhaps, Your Honor, you'd like to explain these transactions." She slid a set of documents across the bench. Carter barely glanced at them until she uttered two words that made his blood run cold. "The Liberty Fund." A hush fell over the room. The mere mention of the shadowy organization sent a chill through the crowd. Carter's expression shifted in an instant. His face lost color. His hands clenched the armrests of his chair. His eyes darted nervously, scanning the room as if searching for an escape route. Leavitt continued, her voice sharp as a knife. "A series of payments, large sums, funneled into offshore accounts. And interestingly enough, some of those deposits seem to have landed directly in yours, Judge Carter." The courtroom erupted in gasps. Reporters in the gallery scribbled furiously, and a few cameras clicked despite strict no photography rules. Even the bailiff, usually stoic, shifted uncomfortably. Carter's gavel slammed down with fury. "This is an outrageous lie," he bellowed, but Leavitt wasn't done. She placed another document before him, a signed bank statement showing a $100,000 deposit into Carter's Cayman account, just days after he ruled against another conservative defendant. The murmurs in the courtroom swelled to a fever pitch. Carter's face twisted with anger. "I will not tolerate these baseless accusations in my courtroom." Leavitt didn't blink. "Then perhaps you'd like to explain this email." She held up a printout, an email from Carter to Liberty Fund representatives, thanking them for their continued support. The document trembled slightly in her grasp, not from fear, but from the weight of the moment. A sharp, strangled noise came from the judge's bench. Carter's clerk, a young woman with wide, tear-filled eyes, suddenly broke down. "It's true," she whispered. He made me delete records." Stunned silence. Carter shot up from his chair, eyes wild. "You lying little..." He barely got the words out before chaos erupted. In a final act of desperation, Carter made a break for it. His robe billowed behind him as he lunged toward his private chambers. The courtroom froze for half a second before the bailiff sprang into action. Before he could reach the door, it swung open violently. A team of FBI agents stormed in, their badges gleaming under the fluorescent lights. "Judge Maxwell Carter," one of them announced, "you are under arrest for bribery, obstruction of justice, and conspiracy." Carter thrashed as cuffs clamped around his wrists. "You can't do this. I have immunity." His voice cracked, desperation overtaking him. The lead agent scoffed. "Not anymore." As Carter was dragged away, the courtroom erupted into a frenzy of voices. Reporters scrambled for their phones, spectators exchanged shocked whispers, and Leavitt simply stood there, victorious. The moment would be replayed on every major network, dissected on talk shows, and analyzed in political circles for years to come. One thing was clear: the era of Judge Maxwell Carter was over, and Karoline Leavitt, she had just cemented herself as a force to be reckoned with. The courtroom fell into a stunned silence as the heavy oak doors swung open. Leading the charge was a stern-faced officer, his voice echoing through the chamber as he announced, "Judge Carter, you are under arrest for corruption, abuse of power, and obstruction of justice." Gasps rippled through the crowd. The once untouchable feared judge, who had built his career on intimidation and manipulation, stood frozen, his arrogance replaced by a pale, stunned expression. Then, with an air of poetic justice, the very same gavel he had once slammed down to silence others was now powerless to save him. The officer grabbed Carter's wrist, snapping the cold steel of the handcuffs around them. A wave of applause erupted. Court clerks, attorneys, and even former defendants cheered as he was led down the aisle, his prestige and power crumbling with every step. For years, he had ruled from the bench like a dictator, passing judgments with impunity. Now he was just another criminal in custody. Tears still glistened on the young clerk's face as she stepped forward, her voice shaking but resolute. "I will cooperate fully," she declared. That single statement sealed Carter's fate, ensuring he would never wield power again. Outside, chaos erupted as reporters swarmed around the courthouse steps, shoving microphones toward Assistant District Attorney Leavitt, the woman whose relentless pursuit had finally brought Carter down. Cameras flashed as she stood tall, her expression composed yet fierce. "No one is above the law," she stated firmly. The impact of her words was immediate. Within minutes, social media exploded. Hashtags like #JusticeForAll and #Leavitt exposes corruption trended nationwide. People flooded the internet with reactions, some celebrating, others questioning how deep the corruption truly ran. But inside the courtroom, the real shock was just beginning. As FBI agents combed through Carter's chambers, they uncovered a hidden ledger, a secret list detailing an entire network of judges, politicians, and law enforcement officials involved in similar schemes. Carter was not just a lone wolf, he was part of a vast corrupt machine. One agent flipped through the pages, his face grim. "This goes deeper than we thought," he murmured. The revelation sent tremors through the justice system. Arrests loomed on the horizon, powerful names were whispered in fear, and high-ranking officials scrambled to cover their tracks. For Leavitt, the victory was bittersweet. Taking down Carter was only the beginning. If this list was accurate, then corruption had spread far beyond one judge. It infected the very foundation of the legal system. She knew the battle ahead would be brutal, but there was no turning back. As Carter was shoved into the back of a police van, his face darkened with fury and humiliation, he finally spoke through gritted teeth. "You think this ends with me?" he hissed. "You have no idea what you've started." Leavitt met his gaze without flinching. "You're right, this is just the beginning." And with that, the war against corruption had officially begun.